The topic of the presentation is bringing employee and customer experience together in the hybrid workspace. So, Keith, great to see you. And if I may, I'll hand over to you to present and take us through this journey.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. Appreciate the time. Can you hear me clearly?
Indeed, we can, yeah.
Fantastic. So, perfect. Good afternoon, all. I'm Keith Jackson. I'm the Vice President of International Channels here at 8x8. Before we start, I just wanted to say the same as my colleague was on before. We want to thank the entire Britannic team for putting this summit together. And I hope to provide you all with some market insight that we've seen evolve over the last 18 months during these unprecedented times. I'm going to walk you through a few slides with industry survey results on hybrid working, as well as customer and employee experiences, and then how we address this from an 8x8 XCaaS proposition that enables us to all adapt to this new normal world that we currently live in. So go to the next slide. There we go. So let's be honest, 2020 was, what could we call it, a wild ride? Businesses did whatever they could to accommodate immediate needs, which included spending an extortionate amount of money. If you have a look at the research that Forrester did, they estimate around $195 billion was spent in the first 3 months of the pandemic just to adapt to remote working. Through that investment and hard work, IT directors and CIOs became heroes for moving everyone to a remote work environment, often in a matter of weeks. Now we face the challenge of a new way of working. From our research, we found that 82% of companies are now formally putting a hybrid working environment in place, which again creates a whole new set of requirements for IT leaders. Now it's all about flexibility, which can be a massive strain on some of those band-aid point solutions that so successfully enabled the rapid transition to a pure remote working environment back in 2020. Next slide, there we go. So as companies move to a hybrid model, the complexities are just now being uncovered. McKinsey research identified several topics that companies really need to address. What work is better done in person rather than virtually? How will meetings work best moving forward? How can influence and experience be balanced between those who work on-site and those who don't? And most importantly, how can leadership communication to off-site workers be as effective to the people that are based in the office and those that aren't? Effectively meeting these challenges requires a whole new approach to communications and collaboration and the underlying communication technologies that deliver them. But what's the impact of getting it wrong? Employees have seen the benefits of being able to have the right technology. Forrester's recent Future of Survey work found that only 41% of employees think that their company's got the right technologies to allow people to successfully work remotely. Communication has become a key part of those technology resources. Employees were educated about the possibility of being able to work completely remotely last year, and they now have a higher expectations on the companies they work for to deliver these. And this has become a global reality. Microsoft, being the monster that they are, took a survey of nearly 30,000 of their employees in 31 countries and found that half of their global workforce is considering leaving their employer this year just because they don't have the right technologies to move forward. But on the flip side of this is also true, right? If we get it right as business leaders, we become a magnet to the true talent that is in the market right now. The resource pool from where we can hire has gotten a hell of a lot wider. We talked around companies no longer having to be centralized in London or centralized in Manchester. The resource pool's become a hell of a lot wider for us to attract talent. But that talent's going to be required for us to have the right kind of technology to communicate internally. Next one there. So in 2021, the pressure for businesses now is bigger than we've ever had before, right? Constellation research shows that digital leaders are creating almost a winner-take-all divide with their investments in cloud and SaaS platforms, making them better positioned to improve and, more importantly, differentiate their customer experience. We all now realize that digital communication is becoming the most critical part of an organization. It's easy for customers to buy online, communicate online, and communicate through web chat, rather than what Jonathan and the guys were talking about in the retail side around, we don't go into buildings anymore to communicate. So those business leaders that take the dive and put the investment into platforms that enable them to have a digital footprint in the marketplace while still allowing their employees to communicate internally, Those are the guys that are going to be truly successful over the coming years. And this leads us on to employees needing to be closer to our customers for an organization to function well. To flatten the organization and tap into the power of information and just be nimble to the changing customer needs. This has been true for some time, but last year's experience really impacted the investment priorities around these initiatives within organizations. IT leaders are now focused on ensuring the highest level of employee experience, elevating it for the first time to the same level as the customer experience. In our own recent internal research, so that 400 IT decision makers found the exact same result. Improving the employee experience is the top reason for investing in communication platforms moving forward. So today we'll cover how partnering with 8x8 and Britannic will make your guys' current projects or future projects successful, but also provide considerations that will enable your initial investment to evolve and continue to support your organization as it grows and changes. I.e., we want to keep the door open to the future, right? I don't know why my mouse won't keep clicking on these screens. So if we look at how the cloud communication solutions are addressing the situation, they're creating massive silos, including data silos inside your organizations. By focusing on point solutions, we've kind of broken the link that historical enterprise-wide communication tools provided to all of our employees. Instead, organizations are faced with two different worlds. On the left side is the employee experience, phone, video, and messaging coming together in one application, empowering employee communications. And then on the right-hand side is the customer experience, cloud contact center for inbound voice, digital, and outbound voice experiences. This really isn't ideal. It's not how we used to do this technology when everything was on-site and consolidated, and it puts a massive undue burden on the IT organization to support multiple disparate solutions that fail to spread information quickly and effectively through an organization. The ramifications are also significant as customer communications are siloed and large organizations only talk to customers through the lowest paid employees in the contact center, making it difficult to be responsive to changing customer needs. XCaaS by 8x8 eliminates these silos, bringing the employee experience and customer experience together. It integrates all of your communication requirements into a single platform. We provide best-in-class video, voice, and messaging solutions with your employees, and they can use this through a mobile or desktop application or even a web browser if required. We also then provide full omni-channel contact center solution along with deep analytics and integration into other productivity tools like Office 365 and your CRMs like Salesforce and Zendesk, etc. And also bolster this with an extensive API library that enables you to either use no-code or low-code technology that enables you to customize your working environment to your own requirements and needs. What XCaaS does is it solves what you need today, but it also provides a clear and easy path for whatever the world's going to throw at us next. If anything's taught us over the last 2 years, we need to expect the unexpected. Like Jonathan mentioned earlier, that little virus that was floating around in January last year has fundamentally changed how we all work and where we work. Having looked at the last two guys, they're sitting there, they're working in their home office, where I'm stuck in a corner little office in the middle of London. So what XCaaS does is it just protects your investment today, but it also guarantees the ability to support whatever changes the world throws at us moving forward. So a little bit on who 8x8 actually is. So 8x8 as an organization has been around for nearly 20 years. We've been pioneers in the voice and video industry throughout this entire time and have made sure that all the technology we've built over the last near 2 decades is patented and applicable to our organization and the wider market. We're also one of the only organizations in the SaaS space that is a single platform for voice, video, and contact center, and also has the only industry platform-wide SLA joining these two bridging communication tools and making this applicable to not only the big enterprise organizations, but any SMB organization too. We've also proved this through nearly 60,000 businesses that have joined our platform. And in those 60,000, we've got nearly 2 million paid users. And when you start having a look at what the analysts are talking about in the market, 8x8's been in this market for a hell of a long time. We're 9 times Gartner Magic Quadrant leader from a UCaaS standpoint, and we've been in the Gartner Magic Quadrant from a challenger standpoint for the last 7 years. Does this mouse not want to click? There we go. So as companies search for communication technology that brings the employee experience and customer experience gap closer, they're finding that a single platform provides the highest level of reliability and the security of best overall value. I just want to highlight a couple of key advantages that comes with 8x8 XCaaS. First, the ability to provide company-wide collaboration, not just back office workers, but integrating across an entire organization's frontline, contact center agents, receptionists, and all the other different personas that we've got in our companies. Solving a customer's problem often requires multiple people, and nothing frustrates a customer more than being bounced from one person to another and having to repeat the same information over and over again. With 8x8 and XCaaS, that context is maintained throughout the entire communication because this passes from agent to specialist and enables us to just provide a better customer experience. And then we move on to that unified admin capability that can't be done through a combination of best-of-breed solutions. Our single admin console gives you access to a single source for license management, mix and match user types, provisioning, configuration, and a single pane of glass for just monitoring your entire organization, saving your IT organization a hell of a lot of time when it comes down to administration. And then we move on to shared integrations that allow you to have just one integration with your core applications, whether that's CRM, collaboration endpoints like Microsoft Teams, or integration into any core ERP systems that your organization may use. Use case customization and optimization requires that lines between UCaaS and CCaaS are blurring. And contact center platforms aren't just for contact center agents anymore. Sales, marketing, field services, and even your IT help desks now require the type of tools that contact center agents have only typically handled in the past. And then we start looking at the ability to bring analytics and AI to the entire organization with real-time reporting and speech analytics across the entire organization, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And then finally, we can guarantee high availability with superior quality on a global basis. There's no more finger pointing, there's no more gaps. For example, 8x8 provides an industry-leading 5 nines platform-wide SLA that I mentioned earlier that just can't be promised credibly with any other two-vendor solution. That worked that time, that's a good start. So, as a responsibility for the customer experience has spread throughout the organization, we've found, not surprisingly, that when it comes to communication tools, not one size fits all, right? Typically, back office knowledge workers can be supported with general UCaaS capabilities. They've got to make calls, take calls, chat, and collaborate primarily with internal audiences, suppliers, vendors, using either video tools or just basic email. There is an exception to the back office, though, when you start having a look at going into your internal help desk. These teams benefit from contact center capabilities. For example, using advanced call handling and routing, insights into activity levels, and just managing the scheduling of your IT organization to provide the best customer experience that you can have for your internals. So being able to mix and match the licensing stacks dependent on the personas that you've got in the organization gives you the flexibility to provide a best-of-class communication tool to your employees. And when it comes to scalability, this is where XCaaS delivers the double benefit. Single administration lightens the burden on your IT. There's no more multi-vendor finger pointing and no more competing upgrades between point A solution and a bolt-on accessory that you may have from another provider. XCaaS mix and match licensing means a lower TCO and a faster ROI across the business, and also provides a simplification of how you get your workers to work where they want to be. 8x8 don't care where your employees are across the entire globe, but we also make sure that we tailor the license experience for the user's persona and where and how they want to work. There we go, that one's now. But more importantly, we then have a look at the monster that came out of COVID in 2020. The adoption of Microsoft Teams absolutely exploded last year. So 8x8 have been working on a proposition for the Teams platform about 6 to 12 months before the pandemic kicked in. So our integration with Microsoft Teams is what we call 8x8 Voice for Teams. It's a cloud-based direct routing service to make and receive all of your PSTN calls using the Teams app. And that's regardless of whether you're on your desktop or your mobile. So if you think about that from a user adoption standpoint, Teams is a very simplistic application to use. Being able to roll this out in a scalable environment with very minimal impact to your user experience, while still utilizing the enterprise-grade telephony and contact center capabilities that 8x8's got in the background underpinning that Microsoft Teams application. But also then you can start using out-of-the-box native integrations that we've got with over 25 business applications like Microsoft Teams and ServiceNow, et cetera, and bolstering that with end-to-end analytics, because the 8x8 calls still run across our platform from a voice standpoint. And again, this is all underpinned by that market-leading platform SLA that 8x8 provide. So ultimately, we're augmenting that Microsoft experience, making your user adoption incredibly simple internally, which helps your IT team for fault finding for all your remote workers, but also enabling you to scale this on a big environment. Microsoft Teams capability for calling packages is only available in a limited amount of countries. 8x8 has got nearly 50 countries where we do entire PSTN replacement for you. But more importantly in the background is Teams is great from a collaboration standpoint, but when it comes to that conversation analytics piece, this is where 8x8 truly shines. And when you have to dive deeper into your customer experience, XCaaS serves up your speech analytics across voice recordings and all of your digital channels. Now businesses can truly evaluate the customer sentiment and key topics and phrases across web chats, SMS, social interactions, and even do this in multiple international languages. This gives you a holistic customer insight into what your customers are actually doing. It identifies common topics and categories with a graphical view, as you can see above there, enables you to drill deeper down into each of those categories and find out exactly what your customers are saying. This could even go as far as revealing calls that could be legally problematic for you by either searching for specific words or phrases that your staff may have to use or lack thereof. So, if you've got a compliance requirement that you need to communicate to your customers, the analytics platform will be able to go and find every single conversation where your comment was not made to your customers. But also more importantly, it just highlights areas of the conversations where your customers just weren't happy. Using that embedded sentiment analysis, you'll be able to identify which of your customer calls came into your organization quickly and efficiently, and address that there may be some training requirements that your agents may need to make the customer experience that little bit better. So ultimately what 8x8 is moving towards is a reliable, intelligent, open, and scalable platform that enables you as an organization to adapt at the drop of a hat. But more importantly, this starts scaling to a global standpoint. When we have a look there across our 16 offices and multiple data centers across the globe, 8x8 enables our global reach with a high availability and a guaranteed platform uptime of 5 nines, which is financially backed, which is unchallenged within the market space. And then you don't have to take our word or Britannic's word for this. If you go into the analyst and industry recognition that 8x8 received over the last couple of years, whether your source of information is Gartner, where most of the enterprise organizations go to for all of the information. I mentioned earlier, we've been a Gartner Major Quadrant leader in the UCaaS side since 2012, and on the contact center side since 2015. And as we move further around to the right, whether it's Forrester or Aragon, IDC, Frost & Sullivan, pick a research house, they've recognized that what 8x8 is doing in the market is differentiated through our XCaaS platform and being able to blend your unified communications and contact center environment into a single platform. So I encourage you to have the conversation with your team at Britannic and leverage the resource that they've got internally, as well as the 8x8 employees that sit in the background to support our partner community. Even if it's just an environment where you want to bounce ideas off the specialists that John and his team have got and leveraging the resource we've got inside, just to look at what the art of the possible is moving forward. Because the market has adapted. We all know that working from home is here to stay, but it's how we find the balance to make sure that our employees are happy, either whether they want to be at home full time, but still making them completely inclusive into your organization, or they're like me and they like to be in the office 2-3 days a week and then bouncing around the country for the rest of the day. 8x8's XCaaS platform gives you guys that flexibility. And it also gives you the confidence moving forward that regardless of whatever pandemic gets thrown at us next, you're going to have a solution that's tailored for whatever the world may throw at us. So John, that's the end of my presentation. Have we got any questions that's popped up in the background?
Yeah, thank you very much. So please do, if there's anyone who's got any questions or points they'd like us to debate, please put them into the chat. I think whilst we're waiting for that, I think it's there's certainly some very interesting concepts there about not just from a technology standpoint about how we unify the customer and employee experience, but actually starting to think about this when we design and deliver technology, we need to consider those two groups, those two stakeholders. So how can we create a frictionless experience across across customers and employees, and what role does technology have to play in it? And I think that's something that's really important to consider, that as the communication flows from this stakeholder group of customers into an organization, it's not necessarily one person that's involved in that fulfillment of that request, right? It becomes a chain that is required to fulfill that requirement. So I think the idea, the principle, and the capability of a single platform which joins people together and provides appropriate functionality throughout is really important in being able to unify that customer and employee experience, to be able to remove friction and give it a great customer experience. So what is interesting, I think, Britannic, we've been working with 8x8 for it's less than a year, and we've undertaken a large number of deployments together already. And I think for me, it's the ability to support the globalization of business, and through that single platform. And anyone who's tried to deploy technology globally and deal with all the different challenges that are faced around numbering and local legislation probably have got some of the grey hairs that I've got, right? So what would you say is you guys have learned, and any examples you might want to reference about the comparative ease of supporting a global business through the sort of unification journeys that they go through?
I think the biggest thing that we've learned is it's not easy. So, 8x8 being around for so long, we take an organization like Mediterranean Shipping Company. There's 25,000 users of UC and 2,500 users in the contact center split across 11 different countries. When our project team was running through just the amount of carrier contracts that MSC had in the background and trying to figure out who's the porting entity, what is the legal requirements around there, what is the service contracts, what PBXs are they running in those environments, becomes incredibly complex just for us to migrate people off of that. How that estate's been looked after for the last 10 years and how organizations have managed to keep the lights on across that entire global span, it's incredibly impressive. But being able to have that single administration console, so whether your organization's got offices in the middle of Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, UK, or anywhere in Europe or across North America, being able to have a single console that enables you to easily provision those users and not have to go and try and remember who your carrier is in the middle of France or the Netherlands, et cetera, it just makes life a hell of a lot easier. And you think from your guys' support desk side, you can configure this from anywhere on the globe. You don't have to have engineers going site and jumpering stuff anymore.
Yeah, really, really interesting. So we've got a question that's just popped up. Does 8x8 have any data centers in Switzerland?
In Switzerland, we've got Zurich, Amsterdam, and Germany. So, no, as far as my geography is going, I don't think Zurich's in Switzerland. So, no, not as right now. But we do have full data center capabilities for voice and contact center in Germany and Netherlands.
One of the things that I think is really important across supporting modern engagement and modern business is the conversation analytics that you talked about, being able to understand the engagement across all channels. So traditionally, this would have been done obviously across voice, and then different platforms would have been used for trying to understand the engagement and the experience across digital platforms as well. So how have you found in practice the conversational analytics platform has really helped to change the way in which people look at this omni-channel world in which we operate today?
So I'll give you a real life example. So my partner support team, obviously there's multiple tickets that come in from your engineers and all the other partner communities that we've got. We obviously do the survey and analytics around what the tickets are and what feature requests and bugs, etc., that we found. But over the last 12 months, we've started using the speech analytics within the partner support team just to start identifying keywords. Is it user guides that need being updated, or is there the same feature request that keeps popping up? So the product guys don't have to go and trawl through multiple tickets to try and consolidate this. Something as simple as email routing in our contact center side. How often does that feature request come up? It just gives us quick and easy access into what you guys as the partner community are asking for us, as well as our direct customers. It's quick, real-time analytics of what's going on in your organization, rather than having people trawl through data set after data set after data set, wasting days, just trying to give you the information that now becomes a visual reference for you.
Okay, thank you. And you've obviously talked about the behemoth that is Microsoft, and the growth of Microsoft Teams, which we've all experienced, right? So it just really took off during COVID. I think there was that challenge of how do you engage with people, and the importance of using video. So what would you say is the experience and in practice of integrating 8x8 into Microsoft environments? How easy, comparatively easy, is this to do if a customer wanted to go down that route?
I think that's one thing that we got really right coming into the Microsoft Teams integration piece. Provisioning users is simple 3-4 click process, right? So as you're provisioning your Microsoft users, your 8x8 users being provisioned in the background. You can then utilize the 8x8 platform if you want to get truly deep in how that user's profile gets configured, their time of day of operations, et cetera. You've got the flexibility to do that in the background. But we had to make sure that was simple. I mean, in the last 6 months, we've deployed over 100,000 Teams users utilizing the 8x8 integration in the background. So I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, we found a couple of bugs because, well, Microsoft do like to change things every now and again. But because of the integration and the team we've got sitting with Microsoft in the background, making sure that integration is as smooth as possible, if any bugs do get found, it gets ironed out very quickly. But the simplicity around provisioning users and making that Teams interface the front end has now become incredibly simplistic.
Okay, thank you. And one of the points you were making earlier on was about the scalability of the platform and ultimately the support of global businesses. So where could I start, and how easy is it to go about growing and extending this platform?
So I think that's the beauty about 8x8. Whether you've got 5 users on and you scale it to 100,000 or to a full 25,000 user deployment like MSC's got, your feature set doesn't get deteriorated by it. All of the functionality is available to 1 user or 100,000 users. And I think that's what SaaS platforms and companies are bringing to the smaller organizations, right? It's no longer the HSBCs and the Barclays of this world that get access to that kind of technology. It's now become available to the consumer sitting in a one-man band startup in the background. So if you ever look at what your teams have done and how quickly you've done some of the deployments on the 8x8 platform, it's incredibly easy to get this out to market quickly for customers. So when something does go wrong, and a PBX fails in an on-site that is still under maintenance and we now can't get chipsets because that's become the new pandemic that we live in, being able to scale this quickly and deploy it incredibly quickly with the expertise you guys have got internally, that's what makes us different in the marketplace.
Yeah, I agree. I think certainly from a point of view of customers that want to, this culture of try things and pilots or proof of concepts or proof of values, whatever we term it, right? I think the cloud platforms and as a service platforms really enable people to pick an area, to try the technology, and based upon success to scale. And I think that's been something that we've seen benefit of working with yourselves and customers. And of course, from there, we've got some clients that need some seasonal demand and adjustment. So how do you go about supporting that for people who need to accommodate significant peaks and troughs in demand?
Well, I think that's the beauty about a SaaS-based platform, right? We enable people the option to burst. We've just had a recent couple of wins in the education sectors where university have got their clearing processes, right? Where all of a sudden their call volume goes through the roof for a couple of months. That's the beauty about software, right? We scale it up and down when the customers need it. So if a customer only needs 100 agents for 3 months of the year, we don't want them to have to be paying for that. We're only going to use 10% of it in the back end for the rest of the season, right? So being able to scale up and down quickly, obviously within contractual terms, that's the benefit of a SaaS-based platform. It just gives flexibility and scalability when you need it, not having it there and being paid for all of the time in the background.
Okay, no, brilliant. And somebody's helpfully pointed out that Zurich is in Switzerland on the chat. So positively, there's an 8x8 data center in Switzerland as well.
As you can hear, I'm not local, so I can claim the fifth there and go, didn't know that.
No problem. So are there any other questions or points that anyone would like to raise on this session?
I just got a smiley face from Richard. Thanks for the patience there.
Okay, so very interesting, and I think for us, we started the partnership. Goodness me, it's less than a year, and
it is less than a year. We were talking about it in our QBR this morning, and the success we've had with you guys. And let's be honest, we onboarded each other remotely. Right?
Yeah,
we only met face to face a couple of weeks ago for the first time.
Which was bizarre. I mean, that's the change in business today, right? We went through a full onboarding, due diligence, training process, and it literally is only a couple of weeks ago that we met and shook hands, right? So I think that the world changed, and obviously we've embraced change. We carry on working with existing partners such as Mitel, but we've also introduced new partners such as 8x8 and Five9, which we'll be talking through shortly. So it's important to be in a position where we can accommodate the different changes that are taking place, the different technology demands and requirements, and right up to some quite involved, complex global deployments with some of those challenges around numbering and porting that we talked about. So yeah, great to have you on board. Great to have you presenting with us at our first Convergence Summit. And just looking at the time, if there's no more questions, then I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll pick back up with Thomas John at 10 to 3, if that's okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Jonathan, thanks so much for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.